Okay. Hello world, I'm super happy to have a special guest today, Merve. She is from Turkey and she's going to tell us about her experience in machine learning world. But first, hi Merve, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Fine, super happy to have you and learn from you. But what about first, you tell us a little bit about yourself, what did you study or you're studying, working?
So I studied industrial and systems engineering, which is a bit of maths or data stuff. And then I'm currently doing my master's in data science. Meanwhile, I'm working in a full-time job. I'm also a Google developer expert in machine learning. It's about to be a year or something. I am trying to do cool stuff. I have this podcast that I am not doing for a while because I had sort of I'm kind of changing my job, so I couldn't spend time on it. And I'm also doing machine learning, computer science kind of streams on Twitch to teach people about those topics because not everybody has the chance to do masters and stuff. I mostly spend my free time doing community work, teaching community stuff. I just love it. That's I'm mostly interested in predictive analytics and natural language processing, especially chatbots and stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. It seems like it's been a lot of like learning and working stuff related. And as you mentioned, something important about teaching and community and also be part of the GDE program, which is so good. But first, how did you get interested in machine learning?
So the major I took, it was industrial and systems engineering. You mostly do prescriptive analytics, sort of, like graph theory, optimize routes and, vehicle routing problems, facility problems, mean cost flow, other mathematics, nerdy stuff. But in real life, you either become a researcher or you go to a factory or, you do planning and stuff. So I wasn't really interested in those, and I was interested in industry, like in Internet of Things and other stuff. So I was also interested in machine learning, but I didn't know how to do it. In fact, I was actually learning it because, for instance, we had this production class in school and they were teaching us forecasting with, ARIMA models, moving average, doing linear regression and stuff. I didn't know those were actually machine learning. And then I took this data science class that I really loved. And I was like, I'm going to do this as a job. Like when I graduated, I told my parents, just hold on, I'm not going to work as an industrial engineer and I'm going to do this as a job. So I need to learn. I studied a lot, to be honest, and I attended to boot camps. There was this specific boot camp sponsored by Microsoft and stuff that I have mentored in. But I usually love learning on my own, like, buying a book, just, going over it, finishing it. I just love it. So I did had this sort of gap here, and I have done like not my first machine learning project, but my first ever portfolio project, which was tweet classification by using decision trees and stuff, TF-IDF and other things. I was interested in natural language processing back then. At school, I had this, I was doing, pretty regular, Setosa, Iris projects. I don't know, we had this tweet mining project. It was about climate change and we were doing exploratory data analysis on it. And then I had my, GitHub Verti portfolio, Verti project, which I did an end-to-end process, starting from EDA and ending with tuning and stuff. And then I got my first job with it. They told me they needed a natural language processing kind of person. And I was like, hey, I'm looking for a job. So I landed my first job then.
Wow, that's exciting. And because of your projects that you were like practicing
Yeah.
learning. Yeah,
Yeah.
and actually, as I was mentioning it before, I think it's really important. I mean, to learn the basics and stuff, but also going into projects, something hands-on. What would you recommend in terms of AI projects, or maybe machine learning projects, or portfolio, as you have experienced yourself?
So I mostly recommend people, you know, like I voluntarily go over people's CVs usually in my spare time. People send me their CVs, and the first thing I recommend is have a GitHub or Kaggle link in your CV so that people can actually see you, that you are capable of doing this job. Because if you don't have any job experience, the best thing you can offer to someone is projects, not certificates, definitely. Because certificates, yeah, you can just, you know, skip or, you know, the assignments and stuff, and they don't really prove anything, but it's important that you get your hands dirty. And the best way to do this is to actually have an open source project. You know, it doesn't matter what you know, it matters what you can do with what you know. So you need to have a GitHub portfolio for this. And by means of GitHub portfolio, I feel like you need to have a decent README and explain your dependencies, have a requirements file, etc. So you actually also know about CI/CD kind of stuff, so that, you know, people can you know, build an environment, get your project on running, you know, load dependencies and stuff, and have no problem with that. This is actually important because when you put a decent project on GitHub, you know that you can deal with environments, you can deal with, if you have Docker, you can use Git, which is an important kind of skill in my opinion. You can, I don't know, you know what to do when you have data, like you have to start from beginning, you know, take the data and know what is going on with that data, if there is a bias or whatsoever, if there's a pattern inside, try to capture it, you know, take the exploratory data analysis, and then, you know, transform your features and, you know, eliminate your features if necessary to get rid of the curse of dimensionality, and then move on with model, you know, explain why you have picked that model, and then do some post validation check, I guess, you know, like Shapley analysis and stuff, maybe do some tuning with grid search, with randomized search, or whatever you are going to use to optimize your model in a better way. I can, to be honest, like I see people's projects and I feel like people don't know what's going on. Like you have to know what's going on. People use gigantic decision trees, for instance, and they are doing grid search with those, and I don't really understand why they are doing it, because it's not that necessary, you know, like you see the data set, and data set is not that big, you know, it's a toy data set, yet they are spending tons of CPU or GPU hours to do a cross validation on a tree with thousands of depths. You can basically tell so much about someone's expertise on the topic by simply looking at a project. And if you are, for instance, if you are just, you know, if you are doing that project with not knowing it, but with, you know, memorization, you know, I have to do this, I have to do that. It gives away a lot of information to the recruiter about, I mean, actually the technical recruiters and the supervisors and stuff, about whether you actually know things or not. So the best advice I usually give to newbies is actually know your thing, know why you are doing things, and actually have a nice, decent portfolio.
Yeah, I think it's super important what you are saying in sense of portfolio, and also because we can have like many certificates about talks, about, you know, conferences, bootcamps, courses. But yeah, I do agree it's important to have some projects by your side. What would you recommend? I know the classic ones are the iris, the data set, the flowers, which is like the basics. I usually been teaching as well and getting people started with the Titanic, with the house prices? Yeah, any other you would suggest, or which one would you suggest to start with?
To start with, you can do toy data sets. It's completely fine. And also Kaggle has just started these HackerRank-like challenges of 30 days of machine learning. For instance, you start with the Titanic data set. You can actually go with the toy data sets when you're first starting, but for your portfolio, I feel like you shouldn't. You should go for a data set that is pretty much challenging to work around. You can find tons of them in Kaggle anyway. So like get the data set and just play with it and you know, like somehow like comment on things, like document what you did and put it in the GitHub portfolio. That's what I would suggest.
Great. Yeah, I think it's important to keep moving like from the basic to something a bit more complex. Any one of your preference that you would like to share?
I don't really have a favorite data set, to be honest. Like, I don't know if people actually have favorite data sets. But I mean, problem-wise, you can basically start with easy problems like, I don't know, sales prediction, some sort of regression problems, and move on with, you know, harder problems like maybe animal detection, and maybe move on to another domain like image processing or natural language processing or audio.
Yeah, I think like moving to deep learning or something. But you were also mentioning something about data analysis and, you know, like the very, very big job before getting into machine learning models. So how was your learning path on that? What would you recommend to people that are starting to get into data, into machine learning?
So I have some of my favorite. I have some of my favorite libraries in it, like pandas profiling, for instance. I don't know if you heard of it. It's a really nice one. You can discover whether you have multicollinearity in your data, which will cause a pretty much big problem. If you don't get rid of it, you will end up, you know, with a really misleading result in your machine learning evaluation part. If you have class imbalance and stuff, if you have sparsity in your features, for instance, maybe you can get rid of some of the sparse ones. I mean, look at the correlations between them, if there's a relationship, if there's a pattern. I usually do a lot of visualizations. I kind of comfort myself with doing visualizations. I was like, I wish my job was this. I wish I could do visualizations all day and someone would pay pay me for this, you know.
That would be awesome.
I look at the, you know, relationships between variables and stuff to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's pretty much of it, you know, like you have these visualization techniques if the audience doesn't know, but if your data is numeric, if your data is categorical, you have different methods on you know, visualizing them, like the box plots and other stuff. I don't memorize them usually, by the way. So yeah, I usually do big chunk of visualizations, and you know, like if there is something I find, I tackle it on the feature engineering part most of the time.
Great. Yeah, very important. Do not forget this first big step into getting to machine learning, because, you know, we can build like really good ML models, but if our data is not okay or is not enough or something, it won't, I mean, the whole product won't work at the end.
80% of a machine learning project actually consists of EDA and feature engineering, in my opinion, because what I have observed also is that people are actually into machine learning, but not the part that is about data. but actually it's all about data. They don't really realize that, and they want to do, you know, fancy stuff like computer vision and stuff, but actually the whole problem is about data. And you know, like if it doesn't even end when you do tuning, like after you put the model in the production, you might have stuff like data drifts. So model lifecycle doesn't really end in the machine learning model part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, super, super important. I've seen some jobs and projects like Latin America, some places. They're like, yeah, I'm looking for machine learning engineer and I want to build something with computer vision. But then you start like checking what they want. And it's like, where is the data? Oh, yeah, we need to work on that. And it's like, okay, so we need like many steps before. Yeah, it's crazy.
People are actually don't know what they are doing with machine learning in companies as well, especially companies. Some of the companies are doing machine learning because it's fancy or they are taking grants. So
it's trendy.
That's why data scientists, I read this blog and it cannot be even like more accurate. Like most of the data scientists are actually doing more than data science.
Yes.
I mean, in big corporations, they are doing only data science because there are lots of people to, you know, like do the backend, to do the DevOps of the machine learning model as well, of the, you know, like data engineering, like using big data frameworks, establishing a data pipeline with Kafka and stuff. But most of the relatively little companies, data scientists are just taking like wearing multiple hats to because the company doesn't realize that they don't actually need that much machine learning. They're either doing it because it's fancy, because they're catching up with the future, because they are, I don't know, taking AI grants and stuff because they are using ML. But it's actually not. Like 2 days ago I tweeted, or yesterday, I don't know, like, but the biggest advice I could give to the people who aren't hired yet would be actually asking the, you know, like when they are being hired, ask the company what your typical day will look like, because otherwise you are going to be incredibly disappointed. Or ask the company about the stack of that position, ask the company about what you are going to do, whether if they are using ML because it's fancy. I mean, nobody is going to say that, yeah, we are using ML because it's fancy, but you can actually ask them about the projects and the architectures used in that project, so that you can have a sense of whether it needs maintenance, whether if they really need a data scientist or not. Otherwise, you will definitely be disappointed.
Yeah, totally agree. As I mentioned, it's like looking for machine learning engineer, build models, predictions, and it's like, okay, where is the data? Like, what are you guys are doing? And yeah, maybe it's
they're probably not doing it.
Maybe it's too trendy already, and they just want to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's good to know from your experience, from like different people we get to chat. Like, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's not only getting to know the models and the math and the coding behind, but also understanding all the process as well, and doing all the kind of dirty job because it's data collection and cleaning and stuff, which is like super important before trying to achieve something else on that. But yeah, before ending, it would be really nice to know a bit more about your podcast. Yeah, how you got started.
I had this podcast. I mean, because I'm working and I am actually like I'm actually having a bit of hard time in my job sometimes because there are parts in my job that I don't really like. They feel challenging because, like, especially in software development and other branches, if you do not love the thing that you are doing, it's incredibly stressful. So like I'm going to, you know, change my job soon, like next month or something. I have started this podcast and I was doing fine. It's just I have this full-time job and master's going on, and I had to give up at some point where it was around finals, because we had this really hard class of machine learning, and it's incredibly hard. They are teaching it with, Tom Mitchell's book, which is very old school, and to it's hard to deal with it, but I have a decent GPA, so I'm kind of nailing it. But I had to give up on a few of my community efforts, but I'm going to go back and, continue doing it at some point, like maybe next month or the month after that. I hosted Lawrence Moroney, which was incredibly good. I love Lawrence. Like, he's this awesome dude.
Yeah.
He's very cute, like he's really awesome. He loves teaching. He loves what he's doing, and it really shows, like I have learned so much from him, and I was really grateful back then when he accepted to come to my podcast, because I mean, he is literally one of the few people that I have learned a lot from.
Yeah.
And then I hosted Gant. You know Gant, right?
Yeah,
Gant Labor.
yeah.
He's also really cute. Me too. Like he was on my podcast once. He's awesome. Like, he's making these amazing projects and stuff. He really inspires me a lot. He's like this machine learning, open sorcerer, magician sort of kind of person.
Yeah.
I really liked spending time with him. I hosted, who else from Google ecosystem? I don't know. I don't know who else I have hosted. Let me check real quick. I hosted 2 other people who aren't from. One of them is actually. One of them is Gideon Mendels, who's actually the founder of Comment, the MLOps platform, and he was working in Google back then when he was doing the YouTube hate comment detection algorithm, which is really cool in my opinion.
Yeah. Wow.
And then he was like, well, hey, it's really cool. We are doing cool stuff, but we really need a platform to actually keep track of our work, do version control in a machine learning, which is basically, comparing your experimental model and stuff. So he founded Comment. It's pretty cool. Yeah. I hosted Stella Biderman, who is actually one of the makers of the open source GPT-3, which is called GPT Neo. Yeah, we talked upon it. I hosted Alexei Grigorev. Maybe you know him. He's the author of Machine Learning Bootcamp, and he's doing really cool stuff. He has this separate podcast called Data Talks Club. So these are a few of my guests, and I really enjoyed my time. I'm definitely going to go back to podcasting, because it's not really worth giving up on community work, because I feel like I'm this sort of extrovert kind of person, and my job consists of sitting in front of computer and doing stuff which doesn't have much social context, and I get bored. So I feel like, coming together with the people that are like me, that are similar to me, is actually quite stress reliever. That's why I'm actually doing community stuff. Tomorrow I am going to have, like, after a long time, I'm starting my Twitch streams, and I will be teaching about data structures and algorithms and stuff. I'm actually preparing this.
Awesome.
This, like, talking about the time and space complexity, which is cool. I just love. I'm sorry, it's my Siri. I love competitive programming and stuff. Like, if I had time, all the time in the world, I would definitely be doing Kaggling.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. But yeah, congratulations. I think I heard a bit about your podcast and it's great. And as you mentioned, it's like getting to talk to inspiring people. I mean, and you get energized and you get excited about projects.
Definitely.
Because sometimes you, as you mentioned, we are always like on the computer working, and we don't know much about what they are doing. And now words like we don't have events, big events to go.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I don't know what others are doing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was also speaker in IO. I talked about how you can build, like how you can easily build projects with, natural language processing project with TensorFlow Hub.
Yeah.
Like it has tons of models and stuff, and you can simply get the model and have it. It actually has the pre-processing code attached to it, which is really good. And you can like compile it as if it's a TF-Keras model and just serve it like that. And that's quite powerful in my opinion.
Yeah,
I wish we would meet in Google I/O next year or something.
Oh, I hope so. I hope it works. Yeah, I saw this year 2021 they've been launching like cool stuff on TensorFlow. I like the TensorFlow forum, the hub to see other projects and just like put it on my project and try to work it around. And yeah, it's been really nice. And yeah, so again, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. It was good to talk to you.
It's really nice to talk to you, although we are like so far away on distance. But yeah, I mean, it's really nice to learn from your experience, and thank you for sharing about this, like the importance of a portfolio, like importance of data preparation, and also to get to how to be like to be inspired by other cool people that you have around in your podcast and so. And yeah, hope to meet you in person, hope to talk again and learn about your projects.
See ya.
Thank you.